All right, welcome back. This is going to be a quick little overview of day one play-ins. We had Invictus Gaming versus T1, as we have on that screen right there behind me. T1 able to clean it up 3-1, nice, easy fashion. First two games, I'm not going to say look shaky, but definitely were a little bit closer than I think most people would have predicted. IG was at least able to show a little bit of life, but unfortunate for them, they're going to have to go home as well. It's nice that they're already in China, but they're going to be heading home for the tournament. Now we have our 16 teams, and I'm going to throw up really quick. The play-ins have finished, so we got our Swiss stage draw, and it's looking a little unfortunate for our boys from NA. At least for the first draw, it's a best of one series, so definitely could be worse, and definitely could go back to that group stage format that we had back in the good old days of Worlds, but. For our matches, we are going to have FlyQuest playing T1. We are then going to have our boys 100T playing BLG. So two pretty strong opponents to draw in the first stage. Kind of going down the list, we'll just start from the top. We got first game on the docket. It's going to be Vivo Keyd Stars versus Team Secret Wales. These are both 2C teams. It's actually a very interesting draw for them. I'm expecting Team Secret Wales to actually have the edge here. Will be interesting to see how both of these teams show up on the day. VKS was definitely a team that improved over the ending playoff format for LTA. So I'm curious if their scrims have been able to, if they've been able to do the same thing during scrims. But if I had to guess, I'm going to say Team Secret Wales. For those unfamiliar with this team, they're from the LCP region. They are actually one of the only teams to take a domestic series off of CFL. Now that happened way back, I think in February of this year, but they definitely have a high mechanical ceiling if every cylinder on this team is firing at the same time. Next, we got CFO Fnatic. I personally think CFO should be the favorites in this match. Fnatic with Poby, when they introduced them, definitely looked like a better, more cohesive team around the board. But CFO, there's a reason why they've been to 3 internationals this entire year and why they've only lost a singular series in domestic league this entire year. They're a very strong team. I have a feeling that this is a great draw for them. They're pretty happy that they're going to probably be starting off 1-0, so expect that out of them. Next, we have my personal favorite team, KT Rolster. Roller coaster never stops. They're going to be playing MKOI. I actually think this is going to be a very interesting test to see how both these teams, what their form looks like coming into this tournament. KT Rolster has 2 very strong players in Cuz and BDD, but then we got some of the more question marks on the team. We have Perfect, Rookie Perfect, and Peter in the support position, and then we have Duckdom, who is not a standout player, but definitely a very serviceable ADC. So curious to see what their form looks like coming in today. If they lose this game, I think it might be a tough uphill battle the rest of the Swiss stage. This is probably one of the better draws they could have gotten for sure. In Pool 2, I think that they're happy that they avoided top esports. I think that they're happy that they avoided AL. So we'll definitely see what's going to happen here. Next, we kind of move on. We very briefly talked about it. BLG versus 100 Thieves. If you're 100 Thieves, I think you go into this match hoping that you don't just roll over 20-minute game and be done with it. So hopefully they can at least show a little bit of life. Next, we have FlyQuest T1. Wow, this is an unfortunate draw for sure for FlyQuest, especially because they're the Pool 1 seed from LTA. Or LCS if you want to call it that now. This is definitely not the end of the world. T1 has shown that they are a strong team. They played a really nice best of 5 today against Invictus Gaming earlier today, but they're definitely not flawless. There's definitely things you can do, and so FlyQuest, I think if they get the right draft and if they play their cards right in the early game, I think that they can get a lead, and they're one of the best teams in the world at holding on to a lead and executing on that lead to win the game. So I would be excited to see what they can do in this matchup. Next, we're going to have Hanwha Life versus Anyone's Legend. This is a really exciting matchup, actually. These two teams are both Pool 2 teams, and this is probably if I had to say, the highest firepower match of the day. So Hanwha Life versus Anyone's Legend. We're going to be having kind of fireworks going off. I think both these teams are pretty fast teams. They're going to want to play pretty quickly. So I'm excited to see. If I had to guess, I'm going to predict Hanwha Life to take this. I think Anyone's Legends kind of took a step back in their form coming into the third split in China after their MSI showing as well as their EWC showing. And I think Hanwha Life is kind of the opposite story of that. They definitely started off strong at first stand. They came in after first stand, after basically running the table there, and they regressed a little bit. Gen G became the strongest team, and then going into split 3, T1 kind of took over their mantle as the second strongest team. And so I'm really expecting Hanwha Life, especially after the kind of resurgence we saw from them, 3-0ing T1 and then 3-0ing KT and then losing in a 3-1 final. I'm expecting them to have their cards a little bit more righted, the ship a little bit more righted here. So I'm going to predict them to come out on top here. Next, we have G2 versus Top Esports. This is an interesting matchup. I personally am I'm not the biggest fan of G2 currently. I don't think that they are as good as FlyQuest. I don't think they're as good as many of the Eastern teams. I do think they're better than KT. I do think that they are better than Invictus Gaming if they had made it. But I think Top Esports, people have a lot of doubts about them, obviously, based off their Worlds and MSI showings of past, and that's completely fair. Same reason we look at T1 and we feel very good about them being at international events, even if they're the 4 seed. But I think if you look at Top Esports, you just look at the eye test from the last split, and honestly this entire year, they should be a top 8 team at this tournament, and I think that's not really disputable. Versus G2 Esports, they're on that cusp, right? You could make an argument for them, FlyQuest, CFO, maybe even KT Rolster, kind of being those 4 teams that are right on the brink of being in that top 8, being a quarterfinals team. But Top Esports, I think, if everything goes correctly, if they play to their strengths, if they play the way they've been playing in China, they should be the favorite in this matchup. And then finally, we're going to go to the Gen G PSG. I think if you're Gen G, you're very happy with this draw. This is kind of what you would want as a first seed. PSG has some heavy hitter names. I'm not going to say they're heavy hitters anymore, but heavy hitter names in Karsa in the jungle. We got Maple coming out of retirement in the mid lane, and then Betty ADC, kind of the 3/5 of that Flash Wolves, iconic Flash Wolves team of the past. And, personally, I look at this team and, yeah, they got some star-studded players in terms of name recognition, but they don't have anyone who's really a carry, and that's kind of been a problem for this team domestically. They're good players in their own right, but no one's really kind of willing to step up and kind of take over the mantle of like, hey, I'm gonna get all the resources, I'm gonna carry this. Usually we see that out of the ADC, sometimes we see that out of top laners, maybe even mid, but specifically with this PSG, I think they kind of scraped by. I think it was more so GAM underperforming, which allowed them to kind of scrape into this tournament. So I don't see any world where Gen G loses this. Maybe if I had to envision one, it would be Canyon gets completely gapped by Karsa, which I don't think is ever going to happen. So, yeah, that's kind of the docket there for the first round. It'll be interesting to see what happens. Out of all these, I think the closest games, kind of talked about it before, but KT Koi is going to be the closest. I think FlyQuest T1 will be a good series, and then Hanwha Life AL. And then on a lesser note, G2 and Top Esports. So it will be interesting to see. The rest of them, I think, are kind of foregone conclusions, and I would be happy to be wrong about that, but that's just my personal opinion. But we'll be back to debrief these tomorrow. And yeah, if you guys have any questions or comments, or kind of just any ideas, or you disagree with me, agree with me, leave them down in the comments below, and we'll talk about them next time. Peace.